Good morning. Good morning. Today is Monday. What is it? The last day of February, February 28th, and it's 8:02 a.m. And thank you for joining me for Coffee with a Message. Today's message is be true to yourself. So be your true self, actually. So first I want to say there's a quote that I found that was really interesting in order to explain and express kind of what I'm talking about. Wearing a mask wears you out. Faking it is fatiguing. The most exhausting activity is pretending to be what you know you aren't. So, in saying that, um, sometimes in life, well, not sometimes, when we go through life from childhood to adulthood, we're trying to figure out who we are and identifying our identity, what we like, what we don't like, and we get pulled in a lot of directions. We get pulled in directions by our family, by our friends at school, by our friends in the community, by other pressures like culture and religion and spirituality. So what happens is that when you're being pulled in so many directions and at the same time you're trying to figure out who you are, it gets confusing. And what occurs then? Well, some people then, there's 7 different things that happen. Some people become people pleasers and give in to the social peer pressures. And I'm going to focus on people pleasing a little bit this morning. So, but I'll get back to it in a moment. Other people are conflict avoiders. So they just, do what people want. Like if you and your friends want to go eat steak, you don't really want to eat steak, but you go with it because you don't want to have conflict with your friends. The third thing that occurs is that you give in to core negative beliefs. So as an adult, we carry with us our experiences from childhood. And I mentioned this before in one of my lives that as a child, when somebody says something negative to us, it then becomes a core negative belief that we create in our mind. And then what happens is that it influences us throughout our life in adulthood. And it's like a little voice, like you're dumb, you're ugly, you're stupid, which is a core negative belief. It can be changed, but my point is that sometimes we give in to those core negative beliefs. Like if you're really a leader, but people say you're just a follower, maybe you start following, and that's not good either. But my point is that that's giving into core negative beliefs. Another thing that happens is you can become an attention seeker. And attention seeking comes from basically you not having your needs fulfilled by the people in your life. So, for instance, if you have a life partner, if they're not giving you the love and attention that you want and need, then you may try to seek it from somebody else. Family, the same thing. If they don't give you the attention and love you need, then you may create surrogate families. And sometimes those things are good for you because I'm going to talk about that as one of the tips on being your true self. Sometimes it's good. We'll talk about it in a moment. Another thing you do is you give in to the pressures to conform to your family expectations and cultural expectations. So like sometimes there's certain things that are expected of you from your family or from your culture, and you don't really want to do it, but you don't want to go against those things because it is important to you. It feels like you will be disrespecting your family or your culture. So you give into those pressures, which again is not necessarily bad, but can block you from being your true self. Another thing that happens is you end up adopting other people's opinions of you, which is not good either because sometimes their opinions are accurate, but sometimes they are not. And sometimes the opinions you adopt end up turning you into someone who you're not. And then the last thing that happens is that as a response to trauma, your traumatic experiences, sometimes you create this version of yourself. And I talk about this when I talk about PTSD, is that when in order to survive trauma, you create this persona of yourself, a personality, I'll say, to that you show to everyone else. It may not be your true self, but it's a way to protect you, so you're not vulnerable, and so you never get hurt again. So that's another thing people do. Now, what happens when someone is a people pleaser, conflict avoider, gives into core negative beliefs, attention seeker, conforms to the pressures of family, adopt others of people's opinions, and responds to trauma by creating their own personality? What happens? Well, that causes anxiety and depression. Well, for some people, it might just be anxiety. Some people might be depression. Some people might be both. It depends. So how do you know if it causes you anxiety or depression? Well, some of the symptoms include feeling nervous or anxious like a lot all the time. Let's say there's one particular friend or family member you have that you feel pressured all the time to please them. Well, in that particular case, anytime they call you or contact you or they're around, then you're going to feel anxious and nervous. And that could look like, tightness in your stomach, butterflies, as they call it, um, palms sweaty. You could automatically make excuses and avoid seeing them. Some other physical symptoms: increased heart rate, shortness of breath, breathing hard, feeling weak, difficulty in concentrating. So sometimes you might even want to avoid family functions just to get out of not having to deal with some of these things. And then and similar for depression with these particular um, things is like sadness, feelings hopeless, like a failure, feeling like a failure. You're never going to make anybody happy. Decreased energy. These are just examples. And if you want to know how it affects you specifically more, you could inbox me and we could have a conversation. But I'm going to go back to people pleasing because I think that that's important. And I've come across a lot of people that didn't realize they were people pleasers. So what is a people pleaser? Well, a people pleaser is a type of person who constantly goes above and beyond to make other people feel good and sacrificing themselves constantly, putting your own needs aside and catering to everyone else. How do you know if you're a people pleaser? I'm going to give you 10 signs quickly that you're a people pleaser. And it's not hard to change it either. And it's understandable. So one, you cannot say no. That's one way you know that you're a people pleaser. Two, you feel anxious about others' opinions of you, like all the time. Like you worried what they're gonna say about you, when they see you. So you like, let's say you're going to dinner with friends and you used to pleasing that person all the time. You will probably go through 10 outfits trying to figure out what you're going to wear just to make sure that their opinion of you is good. The third sign is you never have you time because you're always doing things for everybody else. The fourth is you feel guilty setting boundaries. The fifth is you apologize for things you don't need to. The sixth is you need constant approval. The seventh, you generally don't share your feelings with others. The eighth is you're trying to seek external validation constantly. The ninth is you always agree in order to be liked. And the last one is you fear being labeled selfish. The problem is, in order for you to be a people pleaser, it's not just one of these things, because some of these things could apply to other things, other personalities too. But you have to have at least 8 of the 10 in order to be a people pleaser. In order for you to identify as a people pleaser. Now, there are things that you can do, simple things. One, obviously, you could talk to a therapist, and they can help you change, people pleasing. Now, it's okay to do things for others. It's if you're always doing it and not taking care of yourself. That's where it becomes a obstacle for you in your life. So the first and easiest way, I would say, because I'm not going to go into all of them, but the first and easiest way to stop being a people pleaser: say no. Say no. And I tell my patients all the time, I actually give them that as a homework assignment. And actually, that's going to be the challenge this week: saying no. at least to one or two people. So, but say no, and that will help you. Now, the last thing I'm going to go over is tips on your true self. So, obviously, self care and self confidence is important. And I previously done Coffee with a Message 2 weeks ago on self care in Mexico. And then I did self confidence last week. So, if you want to look at those, they're about 10 minutes or so. So, there's 10 tips on being your true self. And I'll go through these really quick. One is be real with yourself. So, figure out who you are, good, bad, and indifferent, all of it. Two, be self aware. For instance, um, if you're an emotional person, know that about yourself. If you're very kind, know that about yourself. If you are not a morning person, know that about yourself. So be self aware of who you are so that way you can accept those parts of you. Three, learn to say no. Four, find and or create your own circle, tribe, or support system. That's going to be very important because who you surround yourself with matters, because they're going to pressure you in one way or another. You know, if you have the right friends and family members that you surround yourself with on a regular basis, they would be supportive of you being yourself. They wouldn't try to change you all the time or criticize you all the time. So number 5, stop trying to please others. Please yourself first. While approval is important, respect and self-worth is even more important. So remember that. So please yourself before you please others. 6, do what you want. You know what's best for you. You know what you want and what you don't want. 7, trust your intuition. You know, your gut feeling. You know, we get these gut feelings, and there is research done that actually the gut feeling is real. It's like your intuition kicks in, your instincts kick in, and it sends a signal to your brain, which then sends a signal to your stomach that something's off or something's not right. But with trusting your intuition, sometimes when we go through bad experiences, we tend to not trust ourselves and not think that we make the best decisions. So you have to restore that trust, is what I would say. If you don't trust your intuition and your instincts, then restore it, that trust. Number 8, let go of emotional baggage or whatever does not have a positive impact on you. Let it go. It's not that simple, and letting go is something that I'll talk about in future lives, but letting go sometimes means putting it to the side, packing it away until you can deal with it. But it's not as simple, letting go, because it goes, there has to be an acceptance, and there has to be maybe sometimes a forgiveness. Absolutely. And sorry to hear about your mom going to the hospital. Number 9, learn to practice self-compassion. We all make mistakes. It's okay when you make a mistake to forgive yourself or to be kind to yourself. We always talk about compassion to others, but be compassionate to others if we're not compassionate to ourselves. We have to practice self-compassion in a way where we're not so self-judgmental, self-critical. So be mindful of that. The 10th tip I would give you is be assertive. Practice expressing yourself, practice self-advocacy. Good morning. So you want to make sure that in order to be your true self, that you express who you are. So you stand up for yourself if you don't agree with something, and you actually say no, or sometimes say yes, or sometimes make a suggestion. So in an effort to be your true self, I think it's important that I share a quote with you. When you accept yourself, you are freed from the burden of needing others to accept you. Don't allow anyone or anything to control, limit, repress, or discourage you from being your true self, whoever that is. So depending on where you're at in your journey of being your true self, make sure that the opinions and advice and information given to you by others actually applies to you, and that you agree with it. That's the most important thing. And you may agree with parts of it, not all of it. That's okay too. So that's the message this week. Be your true self. And the challenge I said is to say no to at least one or two people this week, because the reality is that saying no to others means that you're saying yes to you. So I hope this Coffee with a Message was helpful. Have a great day and a great week. Remember from previous Coffee with a Message, self-care, build your self-confidence, and believe in who you are. Have a great day. Bye. Till next week.